A very warm welcome to all of you, and thank you for having me at this platform. It's an honor and a privilege. And when Dr. Chatterjee was talking about the old days, I was remembering that I was working with Ministry of Corporate Affairs in Indian Institute of Corporate Affairs, a think tank set up specially for the corporate governance affairs. So when I went to Dr. Chatterjee in 2010, and the meeting which he spoke about, wherein all these Maharatna, Navratna, and Mini Ratna company CEO was there. I was there, and I could see the expressions on these corporate honchos' faces. That what is the CSR? Who is going to do it? So that is the time when a third actor, that is NGOs, were brought in. I remember that was again Dr. Chatterjee's idea to create a CSR hub at TIS, so that all the NGOs could be registered and they can be provided with all these public sector undertakings could be provided with implementation partners, right, sir? So in 2009, when these voluntary guidelines were, released by then President of India, that time also she said that it's going to create a revolution. And after 13 years, I can say that this has been a roller coaster ride, but at the cost of boasting, I would say, under Dr. Chatterjee's guidance. Today, in fact, day before yesterday, CSR2 form also, when it came in, we know that it is here to stay. This has created that paradigm shift. This is here to stay. And it is here to stay for good, and in fact will do good to everyone, to each and every stakeholder concerned, to each and every who is going to take up this journey. So in 2010 also, when DP guidelines were released, I was there, and the entire strategy which Dr. Chatterjee had put in fact, indirectly I was, allowed to be a part of it with the World Bank consultations. 2011, when national voluntary guidelines were released, for the corporate governance part of it, in which the entire the entire guidelines were articulated in the form of 9 principles, talking about, all the aspects of business responsibilities. Today we call them ESG guidelines, which talked about ethics, transparency, accountability. It talked about stakeholders, shareholders, consumers, customers, life cycle of products and services, talked about environment, it talked about responsible business lobbying, it talked about like cradle to grave and cradle to cradle approach of the corporate. So all these guidelines, when these were released, again, as Dr. Chatterjee said, all the corporate were saying that we are doing this, but they did not know actual meaning of it or actual strategy on how to do it. And that is why business responsibility framework was, written at IICA. And I remember Dr. Chatterjee had already joined as Director General and CEO. Ministry of Corporate Affairs did not accept these BR. So he sent me to SEBI. He said, you go and speak to SEBI, because that is also another regulator, Financial Regulatory Authority of India. You go and get it at least, mandatory for corporates who are listed on National Stock Exchange and Bombay Stock Exchange. I remember that one morning we went and met with whole-time director of SEBI, and we introduced this, and we said this is something which is going to have a positive impact on the listed companies. And that is how it was mandated for 100 first, and then it became 500. And then later on, after a few years, it is 1,000. And now we know the talks are on that all the entire listed companies on Bombay Stock Exchange and National Stock Exchange will have to do BRSR, the revised form of it. So what I'm saying is, what started as a small, aspect, it become a full-time, business as usual aspect now. And of course, the journey of converting it into mandatory by taking it as a compliance. I remember Section 135 is just one of the sections of 470 sections in the Companies Act. But as Dr. Chatterjee always says, that is the one which created the most chaos. It shook all the boards, and what we are talking about, we are just talking about 2% companies who need to, follow this mandate, who fall in the ambit of this mandate. So it had been a very, very interesting journey, because I was fortunate to be a part of each and every, aspect which happened. The National Foundation for Corporate Social Responsibility was again conceived by Dr. Chatterjee and his team, and it was again a very Herculean task, I would say, because that was a very national platform which was given to integrate the efforts of all the actors, the government, the corporate, and the third world, that is NGO. But again, as we all know, there's a huge trust deficit between NGOs and corporates. So it was very difficult to bring them on the same platform, on the same lines of thinking. But then, yes, again, at the cost of boasting, I would say, Dr. Chatterjee, kudos to you and to our team. We have done it. Today, we stand at a platform, at a landscape wherein these companies are supposed to do CSR. It is showing, it has changed, it has come for here to stay and would stay forever. It's ever evolving. I would not say it has evolved. It is still in the evolving stage. So with that, I'll close here and over to you back, Sushi.